I was 16 when I started to wonder when I was going to stop being attracted to boys. What would I look like? How would it feel? Would I like being a lesbian? Would the lesbian fairy visit me one night and I'd wake up with short hair, a closet full of flannels, and a fridge full of hummus? See, I knew I was attracted to boys, but I realized I was starting to become attracted to girls, and I didn't know you could be attracted to both, so I figured I'm becoming a lesbian. In all my 16 years, I had never heard, seen, or known of the word bisexual. I was taught that if you were gay, you were probably going to get AIDS and die. STIs were only for sex addicts. Condoms were only for men, and sex was downright terrifying and full of danger. 10 years later, I got a job at Planned Parenthood, educating youth on the one thing they failed to tell us anything about: sex. I told the youth that came into my center that bisexuality is certainly real, that most STIs are curable and are just as common as a throat infection or the flu. Sex should never be made to seem scary. It should be fun, safe, and consensual. And condoms? Well, it turns out there's condoms for people with penises and people with vaginas. Let's face it, our sexual health education has never been that good. We sit in a classroom, we watch a PowerPoint, we might label a diagram or two of the male and the female genitals. We leave the 3-hour or 3-day or 3-week unit and we get on with our lives. We play and we reshape our identities. We challenge the traditional understanding of what a relationship is. We might even change our gender or sexuality or both. We resiliently grow up in a society that not only fails to educate us about sex, but also shames us for having sex, all the while sexualizing the human body in what seems like every advertisement, magazine, and celebrity talk show. We make jokes about STIs, not realizing that we're probably going to have one or more in our lifetime. As a matter of fact, most of us here are carrying the herpes virus right now. But even if we knew that we had the virus, or herpes, as we call it, we probably wouldn't tell anyone. Maybe our best friend, but certainly not our teacher or parents. We have no problem telling our teachers that we can't attend class because of a throat infection, but we'd be terrified to tell them it was because of sexually transmitted infection, wouldn't we? So we stay quiet. When I didn't know the answers to any of my questions about sexual health, I did what any self-respecting millennial would do, and I Googled it. And the diseased genitals that I saw were enough to never even want to make you whisper the word sex again. So if we're using Google for our sexual health education, and we're using Google to become the experts on our own bodies, how do we become the experts on our own bodies with no education? One word: communication. Communication with ourselves, our partners, friends, parents, teachers, and doctors. When I mean communication with ourselves, I don't mean talking to yourself. I mean masturbation. I know. I said it. I said the one thing that most all of us do, but none of us talk about. Masturbation is the best way to get to know what makes you orgasm and what doesn't make you orgasm. Masturbation is the best way to find out what makes you orgasm and what doesn't make you orgasm. That way, we can tell our partner what we like. Our partners want to know how you feel as well. Our partners, whether they be one-night stands, friends with benefits, or long-term lovers, want to make you feel good. Speaking of orgasms, do you guys know how many people fake an orgasm? As many as 1 in 2 people have admitted to faking an orgasm, and as many as 1 in 4 people admit to faking orgasms regularly. Society doesn't really make us feel like we don't need to fake an orgasm, though. We're told growing up that sex is about making babies, but for most of us, if we choose to have sex, sex is about pleasure. Movies show these mind-blowing orgasms that make us feel like, or that show two partners orgasming at the exact same time, showing this bed shaking, pelvis pulsating, theatrical ending. In reality, both partners rarely orgasm at the same time, and sex can be messy, it can be fun, and it can be awkward. But these expectations from society lead us to feel like we always need to have this toe-curling, back-arching, screaming, at the top of your lungs orgasm. So we fake them. But faking it doesn't only lead us to not feel good, it also doesn't properly convey to our partner what we need It also doesn't properly convey to our partner what we like when we're pretending to like something that we're not. We need to communicate with ourselves to find out what feels good so we can let our partners know. It might be awkward at first telling your partner that you don't like something that they're doing, but you deserve amazing sex. And those mind-blowing orgasms do exist. They just have to start with communication. Our partners also want to know how we feel. There's nothing sexier than watching somebody feel good and knowing that you're the one that's doing it. You also want to fully consent to being in the bed or the car or wherever you're getting freaky with them. Communication, though, isn't just with yourself and your partner. Sometimes communication can be most difficult with the generation before us, the generation in which trusted adults such as our parents, teachers, and doctors grew up in. Even though we are younger, we're taking the lead on our sexual health education and blazing the trail, and we largely determine the service we get, the way we're taught, and the education we receive based on the communication that we give. We need to remember that these trusted adults probably got even less sexual health education than we did, so we need to be patient but persistent in our sexual health talks with them. As millennials, we are changing the conversation and changing people's perception on gender and sexuality. We are louder, more open, and more confident than any other generation before us. We're expected to live the lives of our parents' generation, even though the economy is in flux and opportunities are constantly changing. We're unsettled, you could say. We're already paving a new path for ourselves. It's time that we ensure that we stick together and fight for the rights of each other as well. Language is another way that we can become experts on our own bodies and respect the rights of others as well. Communication is more than just what our needs and desires are. It also has to include respecting the needs and desires of others and including their identities in our conversations. We need to make sure that all identities are accepted and respected in society, but we need to push to make that change. We grow up learning that it's not what's on the inside, or it's not what's on the outside that counts, it's what's on the inside, so we need to put that into action. Gender-neutral pronouns, different genders, sexualities, and identities. Respecting those in society should be common, but they're not. So as millennials, I think it's time that we stop giving a shit about what society is telling us to do, think, act, or feel. So there's this theory called the slight edge by a dude by the name of Jeff Olson, who explains success as productive actions that happen consistently over time. Changing your language to respect someone's identity once in a conversation with a friend might not make a huge difference in society, but vowing to change your language and doing so in every single conversation you have will make a change. Expressing your needs and desires, not only in your relationship, but also sexually with your partner, might be awkward at first, but over time it will be normal and expected. Staying consistent with your communication with not only yourself and your partner, but also your trusted adults, won't only change the way that you perceive sexual health, but the way society does as well. So, sexual health education in the past 10 years hasn't changed a whole lot, but I bet you our sex lives sure have. We deserve to have a society that accepts all genders and sexualities, but as millennials, we need to make sure that that happens. Sexual health, whether it be masturbation, gender-neutral pronouns, communication with multiple partners, or just what your needs and desires are, should be respected and expected. Respect and communication is going to change the world, not some crappy sex talk. As millennials, let's get out there and make that change. So 10 years from now, there's no poor girl standing in front of her fridge waiting for hummus to appear. I love hummus, but I love boys too. Thank you.